The Coliseum back to its original 70s glory. What a scene in the East Bay, and we're underway in the John Madden Legacy game. And the decision to come out of the end zone is going to cost him 5 yards as he's taken down right at the 20. So it's the NFC stars who will get the ball first. And Charles, as we alluded to, we've got a different era of coach on each sideline. So the man coaching this NFC squad, we'll call him young John Madden. This is a coach who was trying to establish a foothold in the NFL and on the cusp of doing it very successfully.
Yeah, you think back to that period, those early days as the coach of the Raiders, the late 60s in the AFL and then in the NFL in the early 70s. Coach was a guy who was ahead of his time. The Raiders were one of the first teams to have mini camps, one of the first to film practice, because he wanted to practice coaching as much as he could. And his teams, they were successful right from the start of his head coaching tenure.
They start on the ground here. It's Sanders. And he goes nowhere. He'll lose yardage back at the 17. So it's the big left tackle who gets tagged with a hold.
And sometimes you're actually executing the block well, and he starts to slip off of you, and instinctively you reach out and grab him. And when it's done like that, it's often seen by the official and called.
Here's Favre to throw. Pressure gets to him, and down he goes. Back at the 4-yard line. So as we mentioned at the top, let's take you through the life of John Madden. And, you know, it's very fitting that we're here back in the Bay Area, not just because John's so associated with Raider football, but also because this was where he spent his formative years.
Yeah, he grew up over Daly City with his buddy John Robinson, who would also become an NFL head coach. And he played his high school ball at Jefferson High, eventually wound up playing tackle at the University of Oregon, and later Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Played well enough that in 1958, he was a 21st round draft pick of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's right, the draft had 30 rounds then.
Favre's throw complete there to Rice. And this is going to double their room to maneuver, able to get it from the 5 to the 10-yard line. But Charles, you mentioned Coach was a 21st round draft pick back in 1958. It was the Philadelphia Eagles who selected him. But unfortunately for John, knee problems, they just continued to dog him. He was hurt in his first training camp, actually never saw the field as a player in the NFL. But it was still during his time with the Eagles, you and I were talking about this before going on air, that you could start to see the light bulb going on for what his career path might entail.
And it went on in a big way, didn't it? Because while he was rehabbing his knee, he started to spend a lot of time breaking down film with the Eagles, with quarterback Norm Van Brocklin, the future Hall of Famer and future head coach in the NFL. Remember, Norm Van Brocklin coached with the Falcons, he coached with the Vikings. And it was there during that time, I think Coach Madden realized his love of football and love for teaching, combining all that together, and that meant being a football coach. So in 1960, began his coaching career at a small college south of San Luis Obispo called Allen Hancock, and then later at San Diego State University under another legendary coach, the guy who could throw it around pretty well, Don Coryell.
How about this? They'll try the option, left side. And good penetration here. He'll get this down only to about the 49-yard line. Charles, you know, it was in the early 1960s that a young John Madden made the acquaintance of the owner of the Oakland Raiders, one Al Davis, of course, and the two, they really bonded. Would become one of the best owner-coach duos in NFL history. And to take it a step further, Al Davis became someone who John referred to as his best friend.
Yeah, in 1967, Brendan, Al Davis hired Coach Madden to be a linebackers coach. Remember, this was still the AFL at that point. We had not merged totally with the NFL. And Coach Madden, he paid dividends almost immediately. Helped the Raiders win the AFL title in 1968, and that meant a date with the Green Bay Packers in what was now known as Super Bowl II. But by 1969, at the age of 32, just 32, Brandon, John Madden assumed the mantle of head coach of the Oakland Raiders. And what a ride he, the Raiders, and the NFL were about to go on.
Got a man. It's Randy Moss, complete. And they're going to get this down to about the 37. So we're through one at the Coliseum in Oakland. 0-0 our score. This is the John Madden Legacy game on EA Sports. So on the other side of the field now, it's 1st and 10 as they've got things rolling on this drive. And they go play action with Favre. And this one nearly picked off. Kind of surprising to see a defender of his caliber let it get away, but get away it does, and it's 2nd down. Running right, here's Sanders. And he'll snag about 5 yards down to the 32. Charles, you talked about John Madden and the Raiders going on a ride. Well, try these numbers on for size. In 10 seasons as a head coach, the Raiders won their division 7 times. They finished 2nd the other 3 times. And he became the youngest coach to amass 100 career regular season victories and is still, to this day, the franchise leader in wins. And when you think about it, that's where that rivalry with Kansas City really took root, as did the expression commitment to excellence. And boy, was it personified by the players who played for Coach Madden. On offense, how about quarterback Kenny Stable, wide receiver Cliff Branch, wide receiver Fred Biletnikoff, tight end Dave Casper, to name a few. How about those great linemen he had? Center Jim Otto, guard Gene Upshaw, tackle Art Shell, all of them in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And guys on the defensive side of the ball, the Mad Stork himself, Ted Hendricks, Willie Brown, John Matuzak, Otis Sistrunk, and Big Ben Davidson. So many great players, so many great memories. And he's taken down after a gain of 3 as they move it from the 22 to the 19. All right, so they got that one, Charles, against the center. And let's remember how difficult it is for the center, because remember, he's got to snap the ball to put the play in motion, and sometimes you got that big guy on your nose. You got sometimes where he's coming at you at an angle. It's a difficult job for him to snap the ball and then execute his block. From the gun, it's Favre. And that is incomplete. He couldn't hold on through the contact. Brings up 2nd down. Charles, you think about all the success that John Madden had as an NFL head coach, and he had plenty, and we talked about it, including the 10 straight winning seasons, a Super Bowl title. But like any great coach, he also suffered through a few tough losses along the way as well. And Brandon, those tough losses came in high-stakes games because they always had such great success. Think about it this way. 6 times in his 10 years, the Raiders were knocked out near the AFL championship game or the AFC championship game. But might be a divisional round exit. That's the one that bothered him most of all. Three River Stadium, December 1972. And he will score. Touchdown NFC. Cooper Kupp, 29 yards. And the NFC takes it all the way down the field to score on their opening drive. Well, that drive felt like it took up an eternity. We finally have some action on the scoreboard. Yeah, but plenty of action prior to, because that drive took up all the first quarter before we spilled into the second, and finally, points were registered. On the other sideline, they're chomping at the bit just to get the football. Extra point by Anderson, up and good, and it's now a 7-0 game. Following the touchdown, here's Anderson to kick it away. And that'll carry over the back line of the end zone for a touchback. So, Charles, as mentioned, we've got